Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I do hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to tonight's second bonus. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click the bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to the second upload of the day, shall we? So, if a private military contractor or private contractor goes and does their job securing any kind of facility that they are paid to secure and has run-ins with cryptids of all sorts, our military does as well, and law enforcement. So right now, I decided to share an interview that I had done about 2 years ago with a good friend of the channel. And he is a private contractor, or was at the time of this event that you are going to hear. All right, everybody. Tonight I have Steph back with us, and he is going to share some experiences with us tonight, or experience with us tonight. So those of you who were upset with just the information, now you guys can get excited for the experiences. Steph, how are you?
I'm doing a lot better. Got my blood work and my imaging back this Monday, and there's no new tumor growth, and my biomarkers are within 2% of normal. So looks like I got out of the woods, do some extra imaging over the next year to make sure nothing comes back. And after 5 years, I'm technically in remission, but after 90 days of no cancer, I can finally get my new artificial hip.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Ironically enough, my dad's going through a similar thing. He had some surgery last year, and he needs a new shoulder, but they had to wait until the infection in his leg where the stent was cleared up. So in August, he'll be getting his new shoulder. So good stuff on both ends for you guys. So, it's been a couple weeks since we talked on the channel. Now, I don't know what you want to talk about because it's kind of a surprise to me as well. Like I said in the beginning of this,
you want to be surprised,
yeah. I want
so you can react to it,
so I can react. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you, and I may periodically interrupt you, which people love, I guess. No, I'm just kidding. But so, floor is yours, my friend.
All right. Before I start, I'd just like to thank everybody who left such nice comments and anybody who offered their prayers towards me. Even though I'm not a religious person, I do appreciate the faith, and I hope they were part of the help. And I noticed a couple of you out there are having sicknesses or recovering, and I hope the best goes for you guys too. So hang in there. And one quick thing I learned in this chemo session was that there's a process called cold capping, where I used a clinic that did it, but they keep your head and scalp with dry ice fog for about 6 hours after chemo, and it prevents the exothermic reaction from killing your hair follicles, and you get to keep your hair. So I'm very happy. That seems superficial, but that made a big difference in how I felt about myself during that time period. So just letting other people out there know that's something that's available. And I guess I'll get started here. I'm going to talk about whip dogs. This is the first time I actually ran across a photophore in the eye. And we were out in North Africa, and we had originally been working on a bauxite deposit with hitchhiker ores, you know, the rare earths. And we had found bags and biffs, which are banded iron formations, and biologically accreted gold. And in that area, a lot of people don't realize that 80% of the world's iron supply comes from old microorganisms that used to use iron atoms as a molecular switch for their ATP, ADP mitochondrial reactions. And there was a lot of algae in old seas in that area that used gold as an electron switch in their ATP, ADP. So it's a biologically accreted gold plains. So there, if you can find a layer of that, you can find a huge amount of gold from South Africa all the way up into the center of Africa and even further. So enough geology. We were on a plateau, and we were operating up there, and we had a nice series of connexes, which are the big freight containers. Those are usually organized into a semi-fortified situation, and so that's just a general overview of what we were doing. So it was somewhere in the second or third week. There was a large amount of noise and a bit of gunfire from the south side, and a lot of us went over. There were no insurgents in the area at that time, so we were a little bit surprised, and none of the lookouts had said anything, because we have indigenous hunters and lookouts out there that help keep the animals back and give us a heads up if militants are coming in. And so a lot of us ran over there, and by the time we got there, there was something on the ground, big. Not like super big, but like about caniform, as I've said. It's about 4 foot at the shoulder, and it's probably about 5 feet long, not counting the tail. And it was just thrashing on the ground, and one of the guys was dragging one of the indigenous away from it, and that guy was bleeding pretty bad. And a couple other guys had got there before me, and they finished it off. But man, that thing was thrashing. It had taken a lot of rounds, and a lot of animals slump or run or do something, but man, it looked like a seizure. I don't know if you've ever seen an animal in extreme pain, or extremely aggressive. You know what I'm talking about?
I do. I had a dog that had epilepsy, and he used to have seizures all the time.
Okay, it kind of looked like a seizure, but I mean, this thing was obviously shot to hell and dead. But I mean, it went down hard, but I mean, not any harder than like an oversized melanistic hyena or something, but it went down hard. And a couple other guys started pointing out there and taking a couple shots, and I can see at least 4 or 5 of these things moving around the perimeter. And what's really weird is they have a hunched back that's pretty big, and they're walking and moving like dogs and running back and forth, but their tail is really long, and it kind of, you can almost see the sacral vertebra sort of aspects through it. So they have really strong tails, but you could actually see the ridging of the tailbone. And not at that moment, but, you know, just later study. And there's a lot of them out there. And other people started yelling up that they're all around the place. And so we were all actually falling back to the interior of the connexes, or they're surrounding us. And the connexes are surrounded by HESCOs, which are those giant wire baskets you fill with rocks. You familiar with those?
Yes.
Yeah, and so to anybody in the armed service out there listening, there's nothing worse than filling HESCO. So I'm with you on that. That sucks when we were setting that up. But yeah, so I mean, we got limited ingress and egress, and we're sufficiently gunned, so I'm not too worried. But there's a lot of them, and it's about an hour before dusk. And, you know, we're on the edge of the Sahara, so we get a long light, and the weather's stable. But yeah, I don't know what these things are. I mean, they look like hyenas missing fur, except they're, you know, back. I guess they look more like greyhound or whippet, but like super big. Okay. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of that structure, except they're like, you know, they kind of have that hunched shoulder and the head's down a little bit, sticking forward.
Yep.
And their tail is weird because the tail's angled down. Not like straight down, but, you know, kind of angles down. And the tail is about another 2 feet off the body, but those tails are strong. They're like Rhodesian Ridgebacks. They'd be running, and then they could change direction like 90 degrees, going really fast. No, so we had no idea what we were dealing with. So we were shooting them out, and they wouldn't go away. And there was a lot. I have no idea how many were out there. So we had already called back into base, and we were told them what we were dealing with, and I was like asking them what's out here and what these things are, because none of us know what they are. And they said an EH team would be out, which is Environmental Hazards Team, and those are G1 or Gamma 1, and we're Gamma 2. So Gamma 1s get a lot more money, and they're usually permanently bound to a governmental group. So I never wanted to go that high, because then you're in for life. That would suck. But yeah, they got out there pretty quick, because we were only about, I think we're on about 20 miles from one of our actual forward base areas. So they got out there really quick and sat down, and yeah, they pulled a lot of us aside, and they saw what was going on. They asked us questions, and then they said, we got it. And they all loaded out, and 2 more copters came in, and there was 3 Gamma 1 teams total. And yeah, they got their gear, went out there and started shooting the shit out of them. And we stayed, excuse the language, but we stayed back at the Connex area, and a lot of us stayed up top on the Connexes, and we had a couple of technicals, so we put the mod deuces on the back of the technicals aimed out to the areas we were worried about. And not much happened after that, and we provided support. Anything got by them, came our way, we'd plunk it. And after a while, they say, everything had calmed down, and we got back to some basic work what we could do inside the area. And so I grabbed some rack really quick and slept, and by morning the EH team was back, and they were clearing stuff out, and they actually gave us restriction zones that we weren't to go out to, and stuff like that. And it was like, all right, can I get a blood sample of one of those things? And the guy's like, yeah, go ahead. He laughed, and I was like, huh, okay. A little side note, during the night, the individual that had initially gotten bit, who's named Kasai, he actually developed an anaphylactic reaction. Really strange. The allergic reaction, pretty extreme.
To the bite, or was he bit?
Yeah,
or
around
scratched? Okay.
Yeah, no, his whole forearm was just torn to shreds.
Wow.
And it was swelling up pretty bad, and apparently he started developing anaphylaxis about half an hour after that. They hit him with epi and a couple other things and stabilized him pretty quick, and they got him out on one of the helicopters. So, he actually did fine, but that was really weird. So I was a little bit nervous, and so we just took on contact handling. So basically don't touch it.
Right.
And, so I did manage to, go ahead.
So when you approached the scene, the creature was already, now what did you call it again? I'm sorry.
Well, I found out one of the EH guys called it whip dogs.
Whip dogs,
and,
okay.
Yeah, named after their tail.
Okay.
And one of the indigenous, one other guy claimed, because I didn't understand what he was speaking, unfortunately, but one guy claimed he was talking scorpion dogs, but there was no sting on the tail or anything. And
right.
But they reminded me a lot of Rhodesian Ridgebacks when they run. They didn't look like them, but Rhodesians and pit bulls have that super strong tail, which they can actually jack their direction of travel in almost instantaneously.
Yeah, yeah. Even when they're just, wagging their tail, pit wagging its tail, and it hits you in the shin, you're just like, ow. So when this thing is on the ground, is it making any noise? Was there, what was the vocalization of the one on the ground, and I guess the vocalization of the ones that were surrounding you?
The best way I can describe it is if you take all the fox craziness that fox noises make and tone it down and give it more rasp, it's very fox-like, but deeper and raspier. And they did seem to, I can't say this for sure, maybe I'm anthropomorphizing again, but it did seem like they had a call response, at least knowledge or language. I don't want to call it language, but they had a call response system. Like wolves got a call response system, coyotes and all that. But yeah, they definitely seemed to demonstrate a call response system, but it wasn't anything I was familiar with, but it had the pattern, and they did seem to be signaling each other to a limited extent. And during the nighttime, we did notice a lot of eye glow. It was pretty creepy.
Now, was that through your night vision, or just standing out in the dark looking like they were?
Just standing out in the dark looking, but we weren't going night vision too much. We actually have heavy halogens in the area, and we just lit the area up like a football field at night. And so NVG is not very good at that point.
Now they're I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was going to say FLIR still worked, forward-looking infrared, but they were actually seeable on forward-looking infrared, like predator vision.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Now, so the creature that was dead, the one that did you get the blood sample from that one, or the one that the ones that the team had?
Well, I couldn't rig anything for a blood sample, so I got a
Okay.
tissue sample and put it in one of the shielded containers for rare earth, rare earth vial, because they're mildly radioactive. So I figured that would hold it pretty well, and I got that. And I was surprised the guy let me do it. I mean, it's not like there was an EH team. While they deal with anything from predatory lions, hyena packs, to like backup for insurgent attacks, and they deal with high radioactive emission areas, because sometimes we run across those, and they'll plot them all out so nobody gets into a bad area. And, they're kind of jack of all trades, and they're even more specialized than we are, but they're still a monster on the ground.
Right.
And so
the mouth of this thing, what was that? Was it like a hyena, like a pit bull, like?
Really, the closest thing is like a combination of jackal and coyote is the best way I can describe it.
So narrow, you think?
Yeah, it's very narrow,
okay.
and had a lot of power. I mean, I bet its jaw power was on par with that of a very large wolf. And they're pretty, they're pretty tall, but they're rangy, but they're obviously pretty heavy. I have no idea the weight, but I know they're about 4 foot at the shoulder, and they're about like 5 foot nose to butt, and tail's got another 2 feet on it. But what's really weird is they have micro fur. I mean, it was just like, you ever seen a dog that's like really old and just got a little bit of fur on it?
Yeah.
It's like that, and their skin wasn't like super dark black. It was like, the underside, if you take the fur off some animals and they're black, that kind of like dull grayish black that reflects light a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, it was like that. And so what was really interesting is when one of the guys, EHs, came back before I went to bed, he actually was like looking over that thing, and I was over there with a couple other guys, and he's like, "Hey, you want to see something screwed up?" And we're like, "Yeah." And he pulls the eyelids back, and there's a small rim along the upper lid inside of the eye, which barely comes out, then a couple more spots going across the top that were glowing red. When I was like, "What the hell?" And he explained to us that those were inward-facing photophores, and that's the first time I learned about that. Wow. And yeah, really cool. It's like dying firefly light, except red. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, except it wasn't making the eyes light up, but it was dead.
Right.
But there's still biological reaction in a photophore for days afterwards. So, all right, so go ahead.
No, that's just crazy. It's really cool very strange. So these guys have obviously dealt with these things prior.
Yeah, EH teams are environmental hazards, and even if for insurance purposes, other than normal encounters, be they unexplainable, monstrous, or otherwise, are technically classified as environmental hazards under our insurance bond. So if they're under our insurance bond, they're in known quantity, and the EH team knew exactly what they were dealing with, or at least felt confident, and they didn't get hurt at all, and they cleaned up the whole area. Right. Apparently what had attracted them, they think, or that I at least got out of one of the EH guys, was that there had been a large poaching drop in that area, probably about 3 miles out. And a lot of people had poached out a lot of stuff, or they'd taken a lot of animals and taken what they need from them and took what they wanted back and left a big carrion pile there. And they said, carrion pile's what's attracted them, but they wouldn't go into any more detail.
Right.
And I was like, that's interesting. So
they kind of came like sharks do to the scent of blood, and then just kind of spread out a little bit.
Yeah. And I talked to a couple of indigenous, and they just called them, it translates to whip dogs, or they're just another one of the Jin with another name, Jin spirit something or other dogs.
That was going to be my next question, is what, if anything, did the indigenous, if you were able to speak to them, said about the thing, and if they were like cave dwelling, or, I mean, it's obvious you're kind of in the desert a little bit, so it's
Oh yeah, we're in the northwest of Sudan. If you look on that map, it's your topo map's toilet paper. Once you get out of that area, it just doesn't matter. It's flat sand for way long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There is an actual indirect, sorry, no, a closed drainage basin in that area, meaning like the Great Salt Lake is a closed drainage basin, is a good example. Nothing gets out underneath the sand, and there's a lot of halide deposits or salt deposits and different sort of seabed stones in some of that area. And if the water is not there, then, there was old water. So the limestone area and the halide deposits or salt deposits would have a whole bunch of caves in them just due to water from that, because there's an indirect basin probably like about 8 miles from there. Right. So, and then one of the locals actually said, one of the locals pointed out something interesting, and I'm surprised none of us thought of this. He's like, yes, that's where Anubis came from. And I'm like, what? And he says, the legends of Anubis came from those damn things. They come out of the sand. They kill. And I'm like, okay. I feel like I'm in a bad movie here. But yeah, he's a good guy, but really old school.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I mean, the way you're describing it, Anubis really doesn't look like he's that hairy. And he does have kind of a jackalish looking face as well.
None of these things had ears that popped up. It looked like they were permanently laid down, but I never saw an ear up, but they're always down, even when they're dead. So, but yeah, that's how I ran across my first knowledge of photophores in the eyes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
a caniform. I love that. I love the terms you're using. Now, this was the first time you saw it when the local was attacked. Was it day, night? Was it dark out?
It was about hour and a half, couple hours before sunset.
Okay. Now the ones that you saw,
the shadows are long.
Right, the ones that you saw afterward, prior darkness, before the team came, were they running around, or were they just standing? How were they? What was like their kind of reaction to everything?
Well, I can only say where I was at. Initially, it was like, because there's two people that had, because the guy had been freed from the creature, and one of the guys was just dragging him back really fast like a sack of potatoes, while the other two were training on him, and they shot it up pretty good. He was doing that whole seizure death thing, and then there's about 4 more out there directly, so we all sighted up on there and just took some shots, and quite a few of them, I'd probably say about half of them, 2 of them went right down, but they still did that seizure-y kind of fighting stuff trying to get up thing. And but I mean, like, they went down, probably only took like 2 to 5 bullets a shot. And, I mean, still, it's unnerving. But
yeah.
This is actually probably about 10 years after my whole Canada incident, so I'm not like super freaked out. And I've seen a lot of other weird stuff, but right. I mean, like, still, this is unpleasant. And we got other people around the connexes starting to light up other areas, so we definitely have too many out here. And I never felt we were at super direct risk, but unknown is really bad because I don't know the variables, and no one does. Weird can get you killed quicker than skilled forces.
Yeah, yeah, because you have no idea what to expect, so it's just like it's a learning exercise at that point for you guys, how to react and act with these things.
There's a lot of that local shrub. We call it Moses bush because it puts out so many fumes during the summer that are ignitable. You can actually, like, a rock sparking it, or you throw a flare in there, the whole place just blows up. That's how it propagates its seed. So they're jumping in and out of the Moses bush and going down in different areas, and they're using cover, but I mean, I never felt they were a tactical threat or a skilled threat. They're obviously, by myself in the desert, I would not like my odds, but we were well established. So, but it was unpleasant, but we had a lot of support there in very quick time, and we had everything mitigated. Other than the guy having the anaphylaxis,
what
there's
happened?
No other issue or incident.
Did you see him after he left? Did he come back, or?
I mean, he came back about Yeah, he came back pretty quick, but I don't remember exactly how long it took him back, but it was a lot shorter than I would have expected. I mean, people in the desert don't bleed out. It's part of a genetic thing. Their bodies, just water conservation wise, they clot fast.
Okay.
So, and that's not a racist comment. That's just adaptation to the environment. It's
right.
true.
No, I'm thinking of like the anaphylactic shock thing, and what maybe it caused that. I wonder if it was like a kind of like the Komodo dragon has kind of a bacteria in its mouth. Maybe that's what caused this, because of the bacteria in its mouth.
Yeah, I looked at its mouth, and it was just like I said, kind of like a coyote jackalish kind of mouth. I didn't see anything abnormal other than what it is.
Right.
I mean, I didn't see any specialized injectors, no dissociated lower jaw for allowing this or that. I mean, but yeah, it could be a natural bacteria or something like that. I've never heard of that in anything. I mean, if anybody out there actually has a cryptid encounter that resulted in anaphylactic shock or dermatitis, give Jeff a message. I would love to talk to you.
Because that's very interesting. It's kind of weird to think, maybe it's one of their tactics of hunting, bite quick or cause shock. And, in case they get away, they will eventually find you.
Oh yeah, that guy was definitely in shock. I mean, like, it didn't seem to have much fear of people coming up on it. I talked to the guy who gunned it first, and he just saw the guy getting taken down, and he just, you don't have much time to look at stuff. So you're just like, there's a creature on a person, take some careful shots, and that's what he did. And the rest of us came into the area. So it's interesting. I mean, the tissue sample just wasn't. I mean, I have equipment for looking at rocks. And, we have some very fine level, even that projects up to a television screen. So it makes it really easy to actually look at the ore bodies and look for, macro, micro expression of the atomic structure. So, we look for various things, and it ranges from 500 to 5,000 times viewing. And you have to be so careful, because we have a tiny little worm gear system to move it around at 5,000 magnification, because you try to move it by hand, it's just going to look like you cover 300 miles in one shot on the screen.
Yeah.
But tried appropriating that for that, and I just treated it as hazmat, and I really couldn't get much data. It looked there's nothing abnormal like the one up in Canada. It looked like, it's a lot darker though. It looked like oxygen depleted blood.
Okay.
Arterial blood, God forbid you ever see it, is some bright neon red stuff. But our standard blood that we ooze out of our body when we get cut or, bad cut, it's that kind of darker, oxygen depleted.
Right.
Whole thing looked like that. And man, I wish I could have done a lot more with that. But
when the team, when the team cleaned it up, did they use any special, or did they just kind of clean them up? They didn't put them in any kind of containers or any kind of like plastic, whatever?
They tarped the one in the base, they just tarped the hell out of it and threw it in the chopper. And there's some Chinooks and a couple other bigger transports that were going out to the area and they landed one of the smaller transports, right in the center. The other ones were going out there and going in, and they're picking stuff up on the underside. So they were doing a bottom haul for a lot of stuff that I could tell when one went by us. But,
right. Now, I know you said you didn't know the weight, but if you had to take a guess, what would you say weight would be if you had to guess?
Yeah. And I hate giving subjective measurements, but I'd probably say around, I know, I'd probably say around the lightest it could possibly be would be 150, and I think the heaviest it could be is around 300.
Okay.
But in a caniform, hitting you that hard, that's pretty freaking scary. We got two guard dogs up here that are well trained, and they're 155 pounds, 153 and 155. They're two brothers out of a litter, and they're very fearsome. So if you kind of think of that, and these things were bigger than that, but once again, I don't know muscle density or skin or total bone weight.
No, I mean, I had a Makita that was 110 pounds, and she was a monster, and she just, that she didn't look like 110 pounds. Well, not really, but did. But 350 pounds for, anything is especially living in the desert too. I mean, that's a lot of food to consume to get to be that big.
Yeah, and it just falls into the weirder cryptid family. I
Yeah,
don't think
yeah.
their food and our food might be the same, but
Yeah, no.
um, but yeah, it's just its paws weren't abnormal.
Right.
The paws were just giant cuneiform that and there was digigrade, so it definitely never went up on its back legs. Because the heel was elevated where a dog's would be with the tarsal bones extending down to the toe. So it's walking just like a dog. But the fact that they can turn so quickly, and they really didn't seem to have that much muscle on the leg. I mean, like, their legs were about as thick as a starving person's arm over there. I mean, but obviously very strong, and they'd have to have a huge amount of tensile strength. The haunches were way over muscled. From the elbow and knee up were actually really thickly muscled, but the lower limbs almost look like they'd snap off, but obviously they're well designed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought the paws would be bigger per ratio for dealing with sand, but they didn't look like sand paw construction, or snowshoe hair or any of that.
Right. That's very strange. Just the whole, like, it is a cryptid. That's the thing. It is a cryptid. It's an unknown animal in a location that doesn't have that animal living there. I like the way the man said that's where Anubis came from. They come out of the sand, and like you had said with the mines, maybe they're just coming out of the mines, and the indigenous people are thinking, hey, these things are coming out of the sand, but yeah, they're coming out of the mines.
The sand could blow over the wadis and the playas, the dried and wet legs. There's a lot of wadis out there, which are kind of like an oasis, down in the escarpments between it before you get out in the main desert. So, so that's the first time I saw photophores. I like that guy. He's like, you guys want to see something neat? I was like, okay. He didn't have a hick accent, but he's still actually pretty funny. But yeah, it's like, so that's where I first became aware of photophores, and they obviously knew about them.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I mean, I wonder how many times they had to deal with these things prior to. And
they seem to be very good at dealing with them, or at least dealing with. There's a lot of stuff in Africa that's not reported. I mean, like, if they had first world luxuries like we do over here and time on our hands, I'm sure there would be channels that would put ours to shame.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I have talked about a couple of non-cryptid events over there that were pretty crazy. But
in that location, what are the largest, minus these whip dogs, what are the largest predator in that location that you were at? For that one time, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying all the time that you were over there, but
there's African dogs in that area, and I mean, like, they're spelled DHOLE. There's just a type of African dog, and there's some out in that area, even though they're quote supposed not to be. But they've been following the main road from Khartoum to El Faizer across Sudan, and then branching out. So, if there's civilization, you're going to get those dogs in the background. But
they're not that big,
those things are like. Nah, they're like 10-20% of the size of these things at the most. And everything else is pretty small out there. I mean, a weird, scary thing about the desert out there that people don't realize is that we poop and pee in buckets with cat litter and that weird gel that looks like hard pellets and expands into gel, because if you pee on the ground out there, you'll be surprised at how many things crawl out of the sand. Bugs and mosquitoes come out of nowhere. And if you poop on the sand, you're going to have like more life than you ever thought was possible for a desert to have going for that one piece of poop.
Wow.
So we actually have a very closed system with that, because it's almost like a zombie movie. You leave a poop or water or pee on the ground and stuff just starts popping out of the desert that you didn't think was around. You're just like, oh, bad way to attract nasty things.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely not good. Imagine. I don't know. I just got bad dreams taking a poop in the desert and falling down or something. not a good time.
It's a little bit weird coming back to civilization. You forget there's a toilet and you don't want to pee. So where's the bucket? And you're like, I'm in the real world now. I gotta find a bathroom.
Yeah. So these things, I don't mean to keep.
Go.
But these things are like, I'm just because I've never heard of it. I've always known that there were, and you and I have had conversations outside of what we've recorded, and we've talked about.
Oh yeah.
We've talked about portal. We've talked about different things that cryptids could evolve from or come from, and I've been thinking a lot about portals for certain ones, for certain cryptids that really we don't hear about or that don't fit the norm. And these things are very large for that area. It's almost like you explained, desert animals aren't big because for the simple fact that you're in a desert.
Yeah.
And how their paws were not meant for running on sand, but they were very adapted to running on sand, or like in front of you, they weren't having a hard time running.
Yeah, we are a combination of hard pack and sand. Kind of like I don't know, the edge of the sand dunes out there in Colorado. You kind of got that mix of the desert and the sand, so it's more like that.
So I'm wondering maybe if there is a portal out in there somewhere. It could be maybe these things are coming from there. Who knows? And
yeah, and we talked about it could be bosonic matter actually converting to fermionic matter, which is actually doable. And, we've talked about the science behind that, and to me, that'd make a lot more sense. But yeah, that's a whole different subject, and I have no idea how to talk about that one in a way that would be palatable. But maybe that's something in the future we can talk about.
Definitely, maybe.
But
wow,
I'll believe portals before aliens, and I know a lot of people think I'm crazy, but it just makes no sense to me.
Well, I don't know. I've thought about it, and I'm on board. But now that the more I talk about this Dulce thing, I'm kind of more on board with the portals and outer space. But maybe there's a portal that leads to outer space. Who knows?
Yeah.
So.
But I agree with you. I listened to your Dulce stuff, actually. I'd never heard of that stuff before. So apparently that's really well known. It's kind of funny. I knew the son of one of the people who worked on Gas Buggy. He was actually a contractor over there. He's based out of Khartoum. But he never talked about any of that. But that was kind of interesting to hear that.
Yeah, it's very interesting stuff. It's strange.
I mean,
like when I was
his dad died of like 12 types of cancer. Oh, sorry. His dad died of like 12 types of cancer.
Who would that
that's
be?
Why. Actually, I don't think he'd appreciate that. But
okay.
His father worked on Gas Buggy as a technician and stuff like that, where they're doing a lot of geological assay and clearing. So he wasn't like super rank or anything. But yeah, he died of like 12 types of cancer. And his son really liked the work and had government connections, and he got to be a Gamma 2, and he won the Gamma 1, I think. So anyway, cool. Sorry, I didn't interrupt.
No, you didn't. Strange that when I was doing tonight's upload, and something popped into my head with how the people were being labeled as missing or unexplained death or whatever, and I was like, that's just it falls into what we're going through right now, in modern time. I mean, it was only 50 years ago, but maybe the government and whatever has the government made pacts with are back at what they were doing back then.
Could be. I mean, I've got a personal prediction that, we've gone through the Bigfoot phase and we're in the middle of the Dogman phase. I think pretty soon in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be predominantly pull-offs or whatever they decide to call them at that time is going to kind of come into the new eyeball and wavelength of everybody talking about it. But that's just how I feel it's going to happen with that.
And I think the pull-off fits into the kind of reptilian, and I know you hate the word, but alien, and I only use alien as like not from outer space, but fine. Alien to what we are used to. Then that really, they're fascinating too, because we know nothing about them. So,
and I've listened to a lot of your stuff in a couple other places, and it really does seem like the caniforms are demonstrating a lot of the pull-offs abilities too. The van der Waal forces to go up and down, and the ability to camouflage out, probably using the same chromatophore photophore system. It's just almost like there's a spectrum of manifestation or existence in cryptids, just ranging from, like a dial across the way, and they just seem to be, every point of the dial seems to be a manifestation sharing different traits. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it's I can honestly say there is not a day that I am not shocked or not fascinated, I guess, is the thing. I'm just always kind of something. I get a subscriber email and it just, hey, this might not be interesting to you, but then I'm like, holy, how are they thinking this is not interesting? Like, it's a very strange world we live in, and you gotta appreciate it, though.
Yeah, I mean, I like sharing the information because it's not whether people believe it or not. It's more of, if you hear what I'm talking about and there's some minor explanations for you, it might help you put together something that no one has thought about, or at least further a whole bunch of knowledge, or at least take the mystery and terror out of everything. But I mean, I hope people utilize the knowledge for their own application, so not just entertainment.
Yes, yeah, that's definitely true. Well, it was awesome having you on and sharing the whip dog. I really enjoyed that, and I think I'm gonna think about that and kind of look at some encounters differently now when it comes to just quadruped canine like creatures, and kind of compare, hey, maybe this is something I kind of want
I see. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I kind of want to just go and I wish that there was a way of locating some, like you said, if Africa had the modern technology we have, the encounters coming out of there would be insane.
Yeah, they would be. Actually, I still have quite a few friends that I keep in contact with over there. That might be something interesting for the two of us to explore.
Yeah, definitely.
See if I can get any of their encounters and gigs overall. But yeah, well, thanks everybody for showing up for the show, and I hope you guys do well, stay well, and hope you're nice to each other and you find cool stuff to learn. And if you find cool stuff to learn, let Jeff know.
And share it, please. Yes. Steph, it's always a pleasure. Don't hang up. I want to talk to you after. And thank you for sharing your experiences with us.
Right on. Everyone take care. Bye-bye.
There you have it, folks. I do hope you all enjoyed tonight's second bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that helps this channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant. Keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions. Never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.